Hey there! Welcome to a brand new Dream SMP Headcanon lore video. Today's the day many of you have been waiting for because we get to dive into Ranboo's past. This story ended up influencing other headcanons I've been theorizing, so I tried not to give too much away. If something seemed a little vague or confusing, it's probably because I'm planning to explain it in a future video. Before we get on with the video, I'd like to give a huge thank you to all of you who suggested Ranboo's story. There were so many of you, and it made me really happy to see that you guys are so invested in my stories. Thank you all for the idea and for your amazing support. My upload schedule isn't the best though, so please subscribe if you'd like to be notified when I upload another lore video. It helps my channel a ton and really makes my day. Now, as always, feel free to enjoy the background video or just leave this as background audio for whatever activity you're doing, so long as you're enjoying yourself. Here we go. It is common knowledge among adventurers in the Minecraft universe that an interdimensional portal to the scorching Netherrealm can be constructed out of obsidian and a flare. The discovery of this portal building method opened a literal doorway to new creatures, civilizations, resources, and even transport. Explorers are the only ones who know how to create the portals, but that does not mean that they are the only ones who use them. An Enderman stumbled upon one of these portals in the overworld one day. Curious, he walked through. He found himself in a whole new world of simmering lava and flesh-like stone. He was amazed by the strange blue and red forests, black mountains, and gargantuan fortresses. More amazed was he by the individuals he met. Blazes, wither skeletons, piglins. They were interesting folk, to say the least. Some, like the lava striders, were surprisingly friendly for living in a place so dim and unforgiving. Others, like the zombie piglins, could be quite rude. And then the Enderman met the gas. Well, one guest in particular, and perhaps one of the strangest relationships in the Minecraft universe sparked. Okay, no, sorry, that's a lie, especially if you watch the Dream SMP. Yet, despite its oddities, the unique pair somehow worked harmoniously together. They brought a child into the world, a one-of-a-kind Enderman-Ghast hybrid. He was called Ranboo, a name equally derived from both sides of his heritage. Raising the first Enderghast was uncharted territory. His parents weren't sure if his wailing would spit fire or if his curiosity would lead him to disappearing and reappearing in random places. They were very protective of their son, guarding him from the perils of the Nether and the dangers of its citizens and visitors. Once, Ranboo's mother found him staring at an odd piglin boy. She was wary of the boy because he didn't look like a normal piglin. His face was frighteningly similar to a human's. Fearing the piglin would cause harm, she hurled a fireball in his direction, then whisked her baby away. But the troubles weren't just limited to external causes. When Ranboo was only a few months old, the condition of his health began to deteriorate. He was constantly sick. Whenever his parents hoped that he had fully recovered, he would again fall ill. Just after he turned 1, Ranboo was in a state where his unstable condition only became worse and worse. Friends and family members had no idea how to help. No one had ever raised an Enderghast child before. Fearing for his son's life, Ranboo's Enderman father returned to the overworld in search of help from a higher power. The gods of Minecraft were mysterious beings. There was the god of creation, Notch, the god of destruction, Herobrine, and the minor gods which either descended from or were created by these main two. For one, there was the peculiar god of Undying, whose myth was incredibly confusing. For another, there was the infamous Dreamin Lord, a minor god, but one of the most powerful and leader of all the other Dreamins. The Enderman traveled far and wide in search of a genial being who could aid his family. It was difficult to ask anyone for directions because people either wanted to kill him or they sent their iron golems after him. Days of stressful searching eventually led to him meeting a strange man in a bright green cloak. His face was obscured by a white mask and a black symbol. 4 golden horns curled out from beneath his hood. The ethereal aura about him seemed off, but he could tell that the man was no ordinary human. He explained his situation to the being and begged for his help. "I understand your son's pain," the man said with a contemplative nod. "I will help. Take me to him." The man extended a gloved hand. The Enderman took it and teleported them to his home. The weeping Ghast came forth with her son in her pale arms. He was quiet now. He was so weak he couldn't utter a sound and barely breathed. When the newcomer gently pushed the black and white locks away from the infant's face, he managed to gaze up at the stranger with glazed, heterochromia eyes. The dark side of the child was startlingly cold despite the infernos of the underworld, while the lighter side burned like blue soul fire. "The cure is also a curse," the stranger warned. "To balance his soul, I can give him a bit of my own. It will be so small it won't bring any harm to me, and it won't destroy your son. However, the side effects..." The Lady Ghast urged him to continue. He announced, "I am the Lord of Dreamins. My soul is the symbol of balance, but balance involves two sides, law and chaos, good and evil. As I am now, I am the embodiment of order, DreamXD. To help balance your son's soul, I will need to give him the same amount of chaos as law. He will gain a connection to me, which may be dangerous. Much of his energy will be focused on working with the piece of my soul to keep him stable. As a result, he will be prone to severe memory loss and may even forget you two, if he has any memories of you at all. And finally, he will no longer be able to live in any extreme dimension for extended periods of time. He will have to live in the overworld rather than in the end or the nether." Ranboo's mother was mortified, but she knew that there was likely no other way unless they could somehow find Notch himself. And why would Notch aid beings created by Herobrine? She resigned herself to the harsh reality that, in order for her son to survive, he must live without his parents. "Who will take care of him?" she asked. "Neither of us can stay in the overworld long enough to raise him," her husband explained. "Just as a human adventurer cannot stay in the end or the nether, neither could an Enderman and a Ghast stay in the overworld for too long without returning to their original homes. They weren't built to live in such a mild realm forever. Even living in the nether, Ranboo's father would have to leave from time to time, for the end, before returning." Dreamin hesitated. "I will do my best to care for him until I can find someone better." He relented at last. The Enderman said he would visit to help for as long as he could. As she gave her child to the entity, the Ghast felt like she was giving him up forever. The Dreamin Lord held him cautiously. Ranboo was so fragile and tiny. Dreamin worried if he so much as breathed too hard, the baby would split in two. "May I lay him down?" Ranboo's parents allowed him, stepping back to give him space. With one hand, he unfastened the clasp of his cloak and loosely swaddled the baby to make him more comfortable on the ground. He then carefully placed 3 fingers on Ranboo's forehead, 2 above the eyebrows and the middle finger at the center. Dreamin closed his eyes behind his mask. Ranboo's parents watched as the god's 4 golden horns and mask began to shine brightly. White light emitted from his fingertips. Minutes later, the bright aura turned dark, like the man had placed 3 black holes over their son's head. Ranboo began to cry. His father kept his mother from interrupting the procedure, despite wanting to himself. At last, the aura shifted into a lovely spring green, a median between the dark and the light, as spring was the median between winter and summer. Ranboo's weeping faded, and the tension in his small features evened out into peace. It was the happiest his parents had seen him since he fell so terminally ill. DreamXD removed his hand and shook his head. There would be consequences for helping this family, and promising to care for their son for a while. He could already feel that Nightmare was not happy. He took a deep breath to keep Nightmare at bay, at least for an hour or two until he could properly bargain with that chaotic part of himself. Ranboo's parents were overjoyed to see their baby boy healthy again, but they knew it was time to say goodbye. The sooner DreamXD could find someone in the overworld to care for their child, the better. They kissed his head, held him close, and once again relented him to the Minecraft god. Ranboo protested and reached for his parents. DreamXD used soothing magic to lull him quickly to sleep. He sighed. This would likely be the last time the 3 would be together as a family. The Enderman and Ghast were strangers to him, but he couldn't help pitying their unfortunate situation. It reminded him of his own past, his mortal mother, his brother. He'll be able to visit the Nether when he's older, the Dreamin Lord reassured. Then, in a blinding flash, DreamXD and Ranboo were gone. Years passed. DreamXD had trouble finding someone who could raise Ranboo properly until the boy was at least a teenager. To solve this problem, DreamXD opted to retreat in order to keep Nightmare from gaining control, and the Dream Lord simply existed as the neutral Dream, his newest, most human-like form. Dream figured he was responsible enough to raise the little guy in a quiet life until the kid could take care of himself. Ranboo could be problematic, not because he was generally a bad kid, which he wasn't, but because of his heavy memory loss. Dream always had to make sure that Ranboo was near him, or the child would wander off, get lost, and be afraid of him when Dream found him again. So in celebration of Ranboo's 7th birthday, Dream gifted him an enchanted notebook, one that would never run out of pages so long as the author could write. More reading? Ranboo groaned in disappointment. No, Dream smiled, more writing. You write important stuff in here so you don't forget. You can write, "Dream is my friend," and draw a little picture so you don't forget me if you get lost again. Oh, I get it. I'll do it right away. Give me pen. Ranboo beamed. Say please, Ranboo. Oops, sorry. Please, Ranboo. Dream laughed. Close enough. That was how Ranboo's habit of writing down important thoughts began. The memory loss worsened as Ranboo got older. Sometimes his Enderman father would visit, and sometimes Dream took him to visit his ghast mother in the Nether. He wrote about them in the journal, but it became increasingly harder to remember them in his head. Ranboo felt guilty for always forgetting his biological parents, but they always understood that it wasn't his fault. Still, his poor memory meant that his relationship with his biological parents, while he loved them, felt distant. The only person he was able to remember fairly well was Dream, and that was because he saw him every day and because they were so close. In simplest terms, Dream was pretty much his legal guardian. However, to Ranboo, Dream was almost like a big brother or a father figure, but simultaneously, none of those. Dream was the one who homeschooled him, but also the one who heard his first words and taught him how to walk. Dream instructed him on how to use weapons in combat, but was also the one who took him on hikes to see the world. The only label that really seemed to fit Dream and Ranboo's relationship was just family, and that was enough for the two of them. Then, Dream disappeared one day without warning. Ranboo was 15. He woke up to find a note on the kitchen table. Ranboo, it began, I've held out for as long as I could. I'm sure you've already written this in your journal, but just in case, I need you to know that I am the Lord of Dreamins. I'm not leaving you without reason. I've been suppressing Nightmare all these years so I could raise you normally, but there are dire consequences for that. He's done waiting for his turn. Chaos is overpowering law. I need to leave in order to keep you safe, not because I want to. Tape this note into your journal and do not lose it. If you see me again, do not approach. I will probably be dangerous. Stay safe. Love, Dream. Love, Dream. He certainly didn't feel very loved at the moment. Shock, anger, grief, loneliness, and so many other emotions boiled in his heart and made his stomach churn. He'd been abandoned by the one person he thought would be a constant in his life. Why didn't Dream tell him beforehand? If Dream really had to leave, he could have at least prepared him for this. Now he was alone, with no one else to turn to. The house was empty, except for him. There was a whole daunting, judgmental world out there. It was bad enough that he easily forgot, every day, what he had for breakfast. He had no idea how he would survive. He felt sick. Sprinting to the bathroom, he threw up in the toilet. He screwed his eyes shut and flushed his vomit down the pipes. Well, at least now he remembered what he had for dinner last night. Dream was still around last night. They had eaten at the kitchen table together like they always did after a long day of adventure, and now his guardian was gone without even a proper farewell. Ranboo rinsed his mouth, then splashed his face with cold water, the stinging effect the liquid had on him, making him all the more miserable and aware. A seething voice in his head, one that didn't feel like his own, hissed, "Burn it. Burn the note. Burn the pages. You're better off forgetting him." He shut the tap off, dried his face, then retrieved his journal from his room and walked to the fireplace. Taking the flint and steel off the mantel, he lit a new log, then ripped out the first few pages. Page after page was eaten by the flames. As the fire grew bigger, so did the rage in his heart. As the crackling grew louder, so did the sobs from his throat. "Why did you leave? Ranboo screamed, chucking another page into the fire. Why? Why didn't you tell me? When the written pages were all gone, he flung the book into the fireplace, sparks flying upon impact. Finally, he reached into his pocket and pulled out Dream's final note. Throw it in, urged the foreign voice. In it goes, it giggled. The note disintegrated in a matter of seconds. Ranboo put out the fire, then cried himself to sleep for the rest of the day. When Ranboo awoke, it was dark outside. He woke up enough times in his room to know that it was his, and that it was a safe place. At least he knew where he was. Despite this, he felt empty and scared, yet he wasn't sure why. He tried to remember. While somewhat surprised that not even the faintest memories came up, he had the odd feeling that he didn't really want to remember whatever happened. Ranboo instinctively turned to his bedside table to look for his journal, only to find it gone. Panic set in, and a new voice spoke in his head. He had no clue where it came from, only that it didn't sound like his. It's okay, walk around, find something new to write in, it calmly advised. He got up from his bed and headed to the study down the hall. Something was off about the house. It was much too quiet. Directly across the hall from his room, there was a second bedroom with the door closed. He couldn't remember what was inside. He made a detour and peered into the room. It was impeccably clean, without a spot of dust in sight. The bed was empty, its grass-green sheets neatly made and perfectly smoothed out, like the bed hadn't been used in months. The entrance to a small walk-in closet was open, revealing that it was still full of clothing. A glass of water sat on the bedside table, half empty, next to a novel that had a bookmark sticking out partway through. Someone was meant to be living there with him, but he couldn't remember who. It stirred an unpleasant roiling in his chest. Ranboo shut the door firmly and continued on his journey to the study room. The study was one of the larger rooms of the house. It had wall-to-floor bookshelves all around, save for the desk tucked away in a corner and a window on the side opposite the door. Ranboo flicked on the light switch. He opened a desk drawer and was pulling out a blank notebook when a framed picture on the table caught his eye. It was him. Or rather, he assumed it was him when he was much younger. No one else looked like he did. Ranboo guessed he must have been around 6 years old. He was riding on the shoulders of a tall man with dirty blonde hair and green eyes that matched his lime green hoodie. Both of them looked happy. Ranboo frowned. He had the feeling this was the person who was supposed to be living here with him. Where did he go? The young teen sat down in the desk chair. The warm, encouraging voice in his head whispered, "This is your fresh start, a new page. Be brave and write. Everything will be okay." Ranboo picked up a nearby pen and turned to the first page. And that's a wrap. A little more angstier than usual, but this is Ranboo we're talking about here. He's the main character, so what did you expect? If you made it to this point in the video, please comment your suggestions for future videos and feedback. I really love hearing from you guys. It's usually one of the highlights of my day. If you can't think of anything specific to comment, you can type fire if you'd like me to comment poggers back. If you'd like to keep up with my progress and my other projects, my socials are linked in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I'll see you next time. Bye!